because of these sentencing laws, judges do not have the discretion to sentence people appropriately. So the most neutral person in those situations, right? You have three parties in any criminal procedure. You have the defendant, you have the prosecution, and then you have the judge. Well, the most neutral person in that procedure is the judge. And guess what? Their hands are tied because they can't give discretion properly. So this bill just simply says we want to give judges more discretion to so they can sentence people more appropriately and then do something about the mass incarceration problem that we have.
In the climate that exists today, you hear a lot of law enforcement and DAs suggesting that the laws are too weak and that the very bills you're talking about need to be rejected. You aware of that? And listeners, this is important because you're hearing a different version that has different from what some of our elected leaders. There's still a lot of elected leaders that have been silent or they haven't said anything, but the ones who have been speaking against it have been getting a lot of airplay and airtime. So without having you respond to that, I just want to point that out. We'll go to the phones and we'll take a call, and then we'll get Lamar in here whenever. Caller, you're on the air. Welcome. Caller, you're on.
It doesn't have to be live.
Caller, you're on.
Not there.
Caller, okay, you're off now. Good. But really, I mean, listeners, what Thomas just shared is key because you don't often hear it put that way. A reconnection of families, which I mentioned is going on right now with a ceasefire in play.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying, you're talking about a reconnection.
Yes, sir.
And there's plenty on your side of the line that are willing to do it, but the only thing they face is the threat of a very boisterous opposition, which is speaking against it every day. But anyway, I'm gonna shut up. Go ahead.
No, I appreciate that, and you're right. So there is opposition, but it's only opposition because people are ignorant at the root cause as to why all this is happening, right?
Okay.
And so let's not be mistaken. At the end of the day, most people who find themselves in prison have already been plagued by poverty, right? And poverty isn't just about not having wealth. It's about not having access to it. It's about not having opportunities. And so because people have our limited opportunities in our community is the reason why we sometimes live beneath our citizenship of productivity from its onset. So our opposition needs to understand that these bills helps with that. And so this is why we talk about investing more in communities, more in alternative to incarceration opportunities, and then also skill training and building, right? We want safer communities. Trust me, people in prison, people who have people in prison want to live in a safe community. But at the end of the day, we need help and investment in our communities, right? Because everybody wants to thrive. It wasn't until I went to prison, gained all these skills and all these other different ways to look that now I want to be contributive and productive in my community, right? I'm a taxpayer, own my own home. I got a brand new truck, right? And so all these things happen because I gained skills. What if we can get to our youth now, give them opportunities, let them know that you can do more than just throw a football or sing a rap song. There's nothing wrong with those professions, right? I love all that. But there was so much more in our community that we need to be exposed to. So at the end of the day, opposition, this is what we're saying. But right now, we have to be a remedy and a solution for the harms that's being done right now to our loved ones incarcerated, right? So we got proof now. We're being killed. We got proof that there's psychological, physical abuse. Prison is about taking your dignity. It's about looking at you as a second-class citizen. Most human rights aren't even respected in prison. So what we're saying that we're tired of being harmed, right? We deserve much more as humans. And then secondly, we need to bring people home because this is what our families want. This is what our elected officials need to hear, that your constituents, I'm in the communities every day, right? I just came back from a rally in Syracuse. I just did some stuff in Buffalo a couple of days ago at a disability roundtable. Our communities want their loved ones home, right? They also want investment and better skill training in prisons. Right now, I want to put this out there to listeners. We spend $3.2 billion a year on a system that's broken. It's pumping out harmed folks, people carrying trauma, and who don't have skills or the ability to participate in their communities productively. So you have a right to say something about that, right? $3.2 billion a year is spent on a system that's harming and killing folks. Recidivism rates, 66% nationally. We hover somewhere around 42%. So what if we could get some skill training, people doing things, bring them home so they can be more productive and contribute to our community?
I agree. Lamar, we getting up. They always want to call in a question. You got it.
Yeah, he's not there.
Oh, okay. I wanted to get Lamar's voice in the mix. Okay, you come in anyway, any flow.
Okay.
You got to pull the mic close
Pull
to
that
you.
up.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lamar Scott.
Even closer, even though I know you got a strong voice, the DJ's telling me to bring it close, bring it close.
Right
There you go.
You and Austin talking like
That's a little too close. A little too close.
You can back it up a little
No, it's all right. Listen, I'm Lamar Scott, and I work at the Behavioral Health Center. I'm a care coordinator, reentry specialist, family planning from a male's perspective, and also an outreach specialist. Myself and Thomas have been, we've been knowing each other since 1999, being in Adequate Correctional Facility. And being in Adequate Correctional Facility, that place forced us to become adults quickly. We didn't have time to cry and over spilled milk, cry over the problems that we had in our lives. It forced us to become adults. And we are two of the individuals that grew up and began to run particular programs there and to hear the voices of the voiceless. So within us, growing up and doing those things while we're incarcerated, becoming educated and in different ways that you're supposed to be educated in order to become successful once you come home, for pertaining to academia and vocationals. So then we'll have an easier run, when we get here. These particular bills that we have, particular acts that we're striving to get enacted into New York State law, are laws that would have placed us in a position to come home a lot earlier. If we'd have had the opportunity to have a judge take a second look at my case, I would have did 30 years. If I'd have had the opportunity in the beginning to have a judge use their discretion to sentence me, I wouldn't have been in a position to be sentenced to 28 and a half to 57 years, doing 2 years in a holding center and 28 years upstate, only because of the discretion would have allowed them to go back and do the research pertaining to my life story. I'm one of the ones that, one of the many individuals from school to prison pipeline, from being on Ritalin and Thorazine as a child and being in several foster homes. So that trauma was never healed. It never was addressed until I was incarcerated. And I began to read different books pertaining to my life and spirituality. So I did my own rehabilitation. I was forced to do so because I didn't want to be an individual that was, that fall through the cracks. So coming home, it was easier for me to fall into the reentry aspect of things because I learned the different things that needed to be learned while I was there. And I know that there's individuals coming home that have a hard time. The two of the main things that individuals need coming home is having a home, having shelter, and having employment. With these particular laws, the individuals in prison will have the opportunity to be able to be placed on the list for the Department of Labor. If you're in the Department of Labor, that means you are a legitimate employee in New York State. So when you come home, the things that you have specialized in, it'll be easier for you to go in and drive forklifts. It'll be easier for you to be able to go into any of the construction trades. Speaking to Peter and Sam Capitano, who are the presidents of the local 210 labor union, they've signed on to support us in every way possible. I was blessed to have several certifications through them. And being an apprentice, they're signed on because they know how important it is for workforce development and have a workforce development within the prison system, and then coming home to become, individuals that are prosperous in society. All of these bills fall into that category. It opens up the doors for all of those opportunities to occur.
Not to cut you off, we do have a call. I want to make sure that they get a chance to ask you a question. Then I'll just go ahead and circle the mic right back to you.
Caller, you on the air?
Caller, you should be on. No, you're good.
I think this is a great movement. I also think I have people incarcerated in my family as well. And I do see a great need of a lot of things that need to be done before they come out. And I just believe not only in prisons or facilities for their schools that they need to address the emotional intelligence skills, knowing how to get up to trauma, knowing how to go, learning, things change so much. You want to time like 20 years or whatever, this 2 years is a lot because you're going through your traumas and you don't know how to identify with your feelings or understand how to get through. Then knowing how to have some skills like social skills. There's social skills in the air. That's a whole different world. Being locked up and coming out and trying to adjust that to love you and care for you, and then the maturity level stops. It's a whole big issue that needs to be addressed. And
Thank
to
you.
learn how to get life skills.
Thank you, caller. We're gonna thank you, caller. Thank you, Ms. May. I know your son is incarcerated, and I know you were dealing with some issues of him being beaten up in jail as well, and I believe you guys are fighting for that as well. Just talked about what happened in with Mercy Rental Facility.
Yes.
So, Ms. May, we got your question. We're gonna try to have them answer it a little bit, and then move on to the show.
I'll
Yes.
answer. I'll
Yes.
answer the behavioral health aspect.
Yes.
Again, I'm a care coordinator at the Community Health Center at 34 Benwood. You can reach me at 716-986-9199, extension 8018. The reason being that I am a care coordinator in behavioral health because so many individuals come home from incarceration, they have post-traumatic stress syndrome. They had it before they go into prison, and then it's intensified within prison because the majority of us that lives in these particular neighborhoods, we go through post-traumatic stress. We go through different things that causes us to have these stressful situations. There's so many people in the foster home. I'm a foster kid. I was an orphan at the age of 5 years old, so I became a foster kid early on, myself and my sister, and then going to the boys' homes, there's more stress. Going to the prison system, there's more stress. And then putting yourself in a position to be incarcerated amongst a bunch of savages, a bunch of other animals. And I'm not calling myself an animal, but this is what they call us. So there's a lot of stress that goes on there. I'm in a position to be able to sit down and talk to these inmates that come home, whether they're male or female, because I've been there. I understand the language so I can speak to them in a language in which they understand. And I also know exactly what they've been through being in an 8x10 cell for X amount of years. So being able to speak to them and let them know how important it is to go to different training programs so that you can continue the certifications that you try to acquire while incarcerated. You're going to have to need a skill in this world. Most people come home, they just want a job, but they have no skills, certified skills, but they have skills. The certifications that we have in prison are not the ones that are being respected and used in society. So they have the skills, but it's just not the skills that individuals respect. So you have to put them in a situation where you can build their self-esteem. It's important. A lot of us come home and we're so excited about everything that we need and that we want to do, but no one is embracing us. So this is where I come in. This is where Felicia comes in. This is where Thomas comes in because he has a reentry program also in Rochester. So again, these things are very important. One of the things that what we need to do pertaining to these bills is contact your local councilman, and to make sure that you speak about it and let the individuals know that this is what this is what they should be voting on. This is what they should be discussing amongst themselves, because we're a powerful people, very, very powerful, but we just don't know. The average person don't even know who their local councilman is.
Yeah, and if I could just add right quick to that. And so, because what happens is, and thank you, caller, for talking about that, because in prison, there's a lack of hope, there's a lack of motivation or incentivizing type of efforts to get people to participate productively. Now, you may say, well, people should want to do that automatically, and you're 100% correct. But when people find themselves in prison, already dealing with traumas, already dealing with hopelessness, already being deprived, already being treated as a second-class citizen or less than, it's hard for people to be thinking about doing the right thing. So this is why these bills will provide that, the hope, the incentivizing to participate productively, and then encouragement, right? Because if you got hope, that incentivizes you, that pushes you, that motivates you to say, I want to do the right thing, I want to contribute. And then when you get involved in these programs, this is where aha moments happen at. I went to prison, I wasn't thinking about doing all this stuff, but the more I began to participate in programs, learn about myself, get connected spiritually, learn about my community, this altruism type of thing started happening and growing in me, where I wanted to give back and help in my community. And so this is why we saying that this is the remedy to give hope to people that's incarcerated and motivate them, participate productively, and then ultimately come on. So just like he said, the reason why these things hasn't happened just yet, we need our lawmakers on board, right? We need the majority leader, Crystal Peoples-Stokes. I'm gonna call him straight out. We need Bill Conrad. We need Sean Ryan. We need all these people who we have elected to distribute goods and services and protections for us as their constituents in Albany. And right now they are silent in this moment. So, and it's unfortunate, right? Because some people are trying to protect their themselves in situations, but what we need is for them to get active and push this, because this is what constituents saying, this is what families saying. You heard the caller said.
I just want to comment on something that I'm seeing is very similar for both the homeless population, both for incarcerated individuals. I think that everybody thinks that humans have a certain level of rights that they deserve. But I think also when you're someone who's not in these systems or in these situations, I'm not homeless, I haven't necessarily been in the legal system, or I haven't dealt with incarceration, I think there's a disenfranchisement where it's very easy to point fingers and say, you're there because of your actions. This is what you deserve, right? And I think that it's very easy to do that when you aren't in these things. And I think the way you get support, the way you garner support is, I think we have to ask ourselves as people, and I'm going to say this last thing too quick, then we have to go to commercial break. As a country, do we really believe in rehabilitation or punishment? Because there's a difference. And if we believe that people deserve second chances, and the way we make policies, the way that we support these groups of people has to be from a place of trying to give a second chance rather than trying to play an iron fist. Because it's fine to say someone can deal with these situations if you feel like they deserve that. But if we're saying that everybody deserves a second chance, then we have to really create systems to allow them to really have that second chance. So I know we are going to a commercial break and we'll be speaking more after.
We're going commercial.
You go ahead,
We're
snap it.
Still hot.
Still
All your
on
phones are hot. So
Okay.
Yeah,
everything is still hot. Okay. So you can talk.
Well, one of the things that I want to speak about pertaining to that is that we have to educate the people, because the average person is only going to make decisions according to what they've been taught to believe.
Hey, everybody.
Right.
I need everybody to talk into the mic, even when you talk out of turn, and it sounds bad over the air. So if you grab the mic, put it close to you. If you got to speak, okay, we got to take a second, put that mic in front of you and talk.
Gotcha. Okay. We have to educate people and let them educate people in a sense where to let them know that this is a land of laws that we live in. And the laws say if you go past 35 miles an hour, you go 40 miles an hour, you're going to get a ticket. That's something small, but it's very important. We live in a land of laws, so we have to allow people to understand that if I commit a crime or if I'm charged with a crime, these are the laws that is supposed to be abided by. Most people have no understanding when they say he's going to prison for 25 years. He's going to be so on and so forth. No one knows that there's a possibility for parole. No one knows that he may not do all of that time. And no one knows that the individual wasn't represented appropriately.
Coming right back.
Within the court system.
Power 965radio.2.
And we're back to the conversation with Jim Anderson Show. Before we pass the mic back to Mr. Lamar Scott, I want to make sure that not only do we say if you want to join the conversation, you can at 716-837-1112, but we actually have someone who just called in and wants to ask a question. So can we get the caller and get back to you?
Go ahead.
Okay, caller, you should be on the air.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, how are you? I might have missed some of the broadcast, so I just want to make sure, can the Clean Slate Act expunge some records so it's easier for those incarcerated when they get out to get a job, or is it still on their resume?
Yeah. And so the Clean Slate Act, which is in implementation right now, it is for people who have felonies, is 8 years. So once you get out, you're off paper, you're off parole, and you have no contact with police or the court system for 8 years, and your record will automatically be sealed. And then for misdemeanors, it's 3. So currently, right now, New York State is in the implementation process of that, and they have up to 3 years. So there should have been some already rollouts on that, and some people have already had their record sealed. So we are actually pressing the governor to make sure to get those stats and make sure that's happening. But that's something that we're working on. But that's what the law is set up to do. So 8 years, your record is automatically sealed, and then 3 years for misdemeanor, and that's only certain felonies. So certain
Okay.
A1 violent felons will not be sealed, and also certain sexual offenses will not be sealed.
So like maybe like a drug felony or child support type of thing or something like that would work with that.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And can you be a sponsor? Can you volunteer to be a sponsor to those incarcerated when they do get out to help them walk through the many steps that they have to do to, for instance, get their license back and, for instance, take care of legal issues, things like that? Can someone be a sponsor to certain
Yeah. So,
inmates that come out?
yeah. So we actually have a reentry specialist right here in our presence. So I'll let him talk about that briefly.
Well,
Okay, thanks.
thank you for calling in and thank you for the questions. Me being a reentry specialist, I walk individuals through each and every aspect of their freedom, no matter what it is. If they need their driver's license, if they need to get down to the Department of Social Services, they need housing, and also if they need employment. We hold their hand and we walk with them step by step to make sure that these individuals, have a soft landing, so to speak. Because again, myself, I came home, I didn't have such a soft landing. So I know what it means for individuals to have to go through struggles upon coming home from any form of incarceration. So me working at the community health center, we have mental health counseling, we have all of the different things that individuals may need coming home pertaining to pediatrics. We have dentistry, the rapid rehousing, COVID vaccine testing, physical therapy, laboratory services for pharmacy, and then we have the therapy that individuals need, and just to talk. So yes, we'll hold their hands and walk them step by step through the process of them coming home. And you can reach me, Lamar Scott, at the Community Health Center at 34 Benwood at 716-986-9199, extension 8018. And the email is lscott@chcb.net.
We got another call. Caller, you're on the air. Welcome.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Dr. Doyle calling in.
Hello,
Dr.
Mother
Doyle.
Dr.
Hey,
Doyle.
hey.
Yes, I wanted to ask your guests if they are aware of the program started by Karima Amin, who is well known in our community, called Prisoners Are People Too. And for many years, she has been working with formerly incarcerated individuals, addressing their needs, and she meets monthly. So if they were aware of that program.
Yes, I'm aware of Kareem Amin. I want to say hello to Kareem Amin and thank you for the many years of services. Prior to incarceration, I would always see Kareem Amin going to the local schools because she's a storyteller. She came through Attica on several occasions to tell the stories of our history, and she's been an inspiration for so many of us that has come home to do reentry services. And Prisoners Are People Too at the Pratt Center. I'm familiar with her and her husband, Baba Ing, who do Restoration Society also. So he's also a former employer co-worker rather at the Community Health Center. So, and they're both Muslims, which is a beautiful thing. We share the same spirituality. So yes, we are familiar with Kareem Amin, and I've sent individuals to her in any event that we're unable to help because of the caseload. So yes, we are familiar with Kareem Amin.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that. And I write for the Criterion. So if you have any news or things you want people to know, please send a press release to the Criterion newspaper. And the last thing I want to say is I'm having a program Saturday at the Meriwether Library celebrating Black History Month. And my column that I have been writing for 46 years. So if you want to come by, my program starts at 1:00 this coming Saturday. I'd like to invite you.
Thank you.
So thank you for your work. And I will help you and support you by publicizing your programs. Have a good day.
Thank you,
welcome.
ma'am.
So here we are. Back to Basics has really been involved with reentry. When you came home, Pastor Kenny Simmons actually helped you out along the way and became a peacemaker.
Yes.
When you first came out.
Yes.
Some of the avenues are there for people that might be struggling with getting jobs, red tape, or, remember at one time on the applications, you had to check the box.
Right.
That's no longer on the application anymore. So the work that you're doing is great in our community. How do we get you guys to come to talk to young kids, not necessarily, violent, but have loved ones that's been incarcerated and things like that? I have 25 kids in my program, and would love for you to come talk to them about, decision making, how to address their loved ones that's incarcerated, how do they get there, because most of these kids have never seen their parents, or traveled down that road to see their parents. The only thing they know is my dad or my mom is locked up. How do you go about that?
No, thank you. And first of all, thank you for doing that special work. So my children, let me just say this, and this is why the remedies that we're doing is so important, and why the work that you're doing is important, right? Sometimes we don't talk about the traumas or the impact that mass incarceration, these issues, poverty has on our children, our women, the most vulnerable in our community, the strongest, but the most vulnerable, right? And so we need to do stuff like that. I'm definitely will show up. You let me know the date and time. I'll be there, because oftentimes people didn't give my children the support that they needed, right? They didn't give them a platform to talk. And in fact, most people was too ashamed or didn't know how to address it. And so unfortunately, the pain and problems get passed on to our children. We don't get a chance to do that. So the platform that you're providing for the kids, I want to tell you, it's tremendous. It's much needed. And that's the great way to heal the traumas that they're carrying. And so I would definitely come do that. We also mentor youth and do different things throughout the community too, because that's what we need to do to try to help our family and loved ones. And lastly, I'll say, before I pass it to Jamar, I read a powerful book by Dr. Neal. The title was The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And so one of the things that the doctor said and shared in that book was that the warriors, the African tribes, when they would greet each other, they would greet them in their Swahili language that I cannot pronounce right now, but they would say, "Are the women and children okay?" And then so the other warrior who he was meeting would address him and say, "Yes, the women and children are okay." And I want to say to everybody in Buffalo, across New York State, our women and children are not okay, right? So the harms and issues that's going on in prisons is not only a detriment to their success and to their happiness, to their wholeness, but even before, the poverty stricken, the policies that's in place right now that's preventing us from having opportunities to be able to thrive and then move forward in life. So our women and children are not okay. And so we all need to stand up, do something about that. It starts with these bills, Communities Not Cages campaign, 3 transformative sentence reform bills. But more importantly, we need to start making each other whole in our community. So I will be there. Let me know when. I'll go sit with those young folks, because that's our future.
Yeah, we got 2 calls.
I'm ready.
Caller, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hello?
You're on.
Okay, just making sure you had 2
Hey.
people. I don't know from the...
You first, Eula. You first. You're the first lady.
And your guest, this is Eula Naylor. And I am going to kind of bring in something that very few people address. In fact, I think I'm the only one addressing it. I found out that one of your guests has been through the foster care system, and I would like to meet with him on that issue. But what I'm going to say having to do with incarceration, and it has to do with those that are being affected by Child Protective Services, is that they don't have to, they do termination of parental rights from them because they don't know the process. They do not have to lose their children because they're incarcerated. But there is a process that they have to do in order to keep their rights. And so I just wanted to interject that into your conversation as to the things that are going on in prison. And, everything that we're addressing some real heavy issues.
Yeah, sister, and that's huge what you're dropping in. That information that you're dropping in now is huge, because, I didn't know that, but when you have a system that secretly moves to deprive you of your rights, it is important that the sisters and brothers in the system know how to counter that. Wow.
Yes, and then also when they go through that system, and some of them, not 100%, they end up being aged out, and then they don't have anything in place for them. They're homeless. Mm-hmm. And so, committing crime is one of your ways of survival. Mm-hmm. So then they end up in the incarcerated system.
You true, sir. Eula? I'm gonna push you, but for sure there'll be a follow-up on that piece. And
Yeah, and I would like to meet with I don't know if it's Lamont Scott. That's been in the
Lamar Scott.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll make sure to give him your contact.
I would like to meet with him.
I'll get your I'll get a contact to him.
That's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Stay
Let me
strong.
address that.
Call. Okay, bye-bye. Caller, you on the air. Welcome. Caller,
Hi,
you.
I'm sorry, I think we got cut off before. I just wanted to thank you all for what you're trying to do, and what you are doing. It's very hard for the family as well, because we don't know where to start or what to do or what first steps to take. My son is incarcerated, and it will be 10 years when he gets out. So in 10 years, a lot has changed, and I'm hoping that the bills come through before then. But I wanted to thank you for walking us through that process, because it is just as mind-boggling to the family as it is to the inmate.
And I
So
just want to say that is my mother who's
Hi.
on. So hi, Mom.
Oh,
We appreciate you calling in and listening and adding that, because
awesome.
it is a family affair, and we deal with our own barriers moving forward and how to process, and we had to learn how to do this, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you. I'm glad you called in, Ma. I was going to ask you about that, because earlier when you had mentioned your relationship with the system and then the work you were doing, and I kept thinking, man, that's a lot of weight on you, and a lot of weight on the family. I mean, look, when you have to go to the hospital for a loved one, that's a lot. And you have greater perspectives of them getting out sooner than when you have somebody who's definitely going to be incarcerated for long periods of time.
And I just wanted to add to that, the caller prior was talking about the foster care system, and real quick, because I know Lamar wants to talk about that as well. I actually have my brother's son, who I took in custody when he was a young child. He's 20 years old now. But it was a lot that I had to do to even get custody of him, just being an aunt.
Yeah.
There was things I had to go to, classes for foster care and things like that, because he was in the foster care system and I got him out.
Right.
But there was things that I had to do just to get him. And we talk about this at home. Not everybody has a TT, because that's what I am. I'm the aunt. Nobody. So we find kids that fall through those cracks, like Lamar is going to talk about, and end up in the foster system for years on end until they age out, and they don't have those opportunities or those individuals to guide them. And then the one thing, and I'll say this, I remember the judge asking me, Miss Cruz, what do you want to do? I said, if I don't get him now, he will be in the streets and I'm gonna lose him. He is a third-year college student going to the Super Bowl on an internship tomorrow. So, having that structure as a family is extremely important.
Sweet. There's another point I want to bring in, is issues like this bring stigma. And something that was really a visual impact on me. Okay, I'll go to the phone one second. That was a visual impact. Is when you came in the room and you and Lamar and recognizing each other, you're like, oh, there go my head, y'all. And I'm thinking how, some people stand back from folks who've been through this kind of thing, like, don't get that on me.
Well, he works at Northland Workforce
I know, and I'm saying he's still,
I worked at Northland Workforce Training Center as an outreach specialist, and I was giving him as much advice as possible to be the best outreach specialist that he can be there. He's not going to take my place, where he brings an audience and he brings a talent that I didn't have. So he's the individual that came in and slowly but surely becoming a superstar with them, because of the character that he has, the heart that he has, and the determination that he has in order to be the best. So when I seen him, it was a beautiful thing to see him, because it means that we're continuing to be in the same spaces, doing the same work.
It also reflects, and not to cut you, but to cut you, it reflects people, listen, they don't bite. they're not strange. It's a natural affair to meet someone and later find out they have an experience that is quite different and unique.
I want to address the foster system situation. At the Community Health Center, there's the Osborne Society by Lindsay Dior. And the Osborne Society specializes in women incarcerated, and they also specializes in helping, mentoring, and taking care of the children of incarcerated parents. So that particular situation is great because they not only have the TV visits where you can see someone incarcerated and talk to your loved one. They have that once a month, but they also have a van service that take children to the prison systems to see their loved ones. And then they have different events throughout the month, throughout the year, where I can come in, and then those that were incarcerated one time can speak to these children and give them the inspiration that they need and the hope that they need because their parents are there. So if they see me and if they see others, they'll say, my mother and my father can come home and do the same thing. Or can you speak to my mother and my father? Can you help my mother and father come home to do some great things? Because most children strictly want to see their parents home. They're not concerned about the amount of money that's being paid.
They just love the parents.
They want to see their parents home. It's a supporting system that's needed because there's thousands of people incarcerated, and then there's tens of thousands of children without their parents. So that's a system that's needed.
Let me hold you on because I got a call on, put on the phone a long time, and I don't want them to miss out on the call, so I got to get them in. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes, you're on.
Hi. I'm a resident of the East Side for about 70 years now, and one of the biggest factors I think is, and I call it educational genocide on the East Side. We have 15 schools on the East Side of Buffalo with 6,626, approximately 6,626 students, which 5,500 of them are below reading and math proficiency levels. And this is between first and 8th grade. And they don't correct it. And by the time they finish high school, this free college that they're offering, they can't even pass the entrance exams to get into the schools. So where else do they go? You sell drugs, you rob, you end up in jail. And we have no community leaders that are making issue of it. There was a teacher on Channel 4 about 2 years ago, and she said, I don't know why the people in the East Side aren't up in arms over the education level that's going over there, and no one seems to be up in arms about it.
Well, we up in arms about it, brother. We definitely up in arms about it. And it takes more people like yourself to be more involved community-wise. We can, push the envelope and say it's this and that. The only way it's going to be effective is if you come out and come join us on our mission, and then we can get things done, brother. So I'm not looking for what they have done. I'm looking for what we can do. And that's why Stop the Violence Coalition and other organizations out here now is doing the work. That's why these brothers are here now to do the work. They're ready to go to Albany tomorrow. So they'll be leaving out early in the morning to lobby, to go to Albany, to walk the steps in Albany, to get laws changed so it can work for our community. This is a part of the shake-up part that we do on the Jim Anderson show. So I do the shake-up part. I'm letting you know now, brother. Trust me, it's things happening in this city that you don't know about that's working. I'm telling you right now, crime is down in the city of Buffalo. Young men are not shooting as much as they used to. Young people are not robbing as much as they used to. Young people are getting educated more than used to. I'm telling you this now because I have 25 youth in my program right now that's going to school, is taking on jobs and joining organizations in school to learn what's going on. So let's not say that because what your statistics say don't mean it's our future. And that's what I'm saying here, brother.
Well, it's not my statistics. The statistics come from the Department of Education.
Okay, hold on, brother. Let me say this to you. Yeah. And I thank you for calling in, right? There are a lot of us in the community, right? I did 30 years in prison. Brother Thomas did 25. John Smith, who we know as Tubbs, Muslim named Wadu, he did 25 years, right? He's come home and he has a program with Back to Basics with Reverend Giles and the HEAT program. He has 75 students over there. He makes sure that each and every one of them students gets home every single day. They come in from school, they're eating, they're being clothed, and they're being housed, and they work and they're being paid there. That's 75 kids in just on Dope and May Street. I'm there speaking to these kids, so I know that this is what he's doing. I also know that Carlinda Menders is over there also. She's doing phenomenal work with the children and the young ladies. And then there's Karima Morrison, who's Bury the Violence. Mm-hmm. She's finding children that has been run away from home because of the violence that they may have been subjected to. There's Tim Newkirk, there's Kenny Simmons, there's Reverend Giles, there's Mike King. There's so many individuals. I can go on and on and on talking about these individuals that are doing things. And then once again, I'm going to hit you in the head. There's the Northland Workforce Training Center. Myself personally, I signed up 75 students to become students at ECC and Alfred States for mechatronics and for welding, myself as an outreach specialist. So there are young men and young women that are doing great things, and there are men that are doing great things. Stephen Tucker is not even from the city of Buffalo. He came from Ohio to come here to be the president and CEO several years ago, and he has one of the biggest workforce training centers in the city of Buffalo. Because of him, so many people are hired, so many people are employed, and there are a lot of families. There are a lot of families that are employed and being taken care of because of that. So again, I appreciate you calling and saying the things that you're saying, but there still needs to be plenty of work done. But we out here putting in the work, brother. We out here putting in the work. This is not this is not a game for us.
I understand all the programs that are going on.
No. Not only the programs that are going on. I want you to understand the programs that are going on because people really love what they do. And then people are changing the landscape of what's happening in the city of Buffalo. We're changing the landscape. We're not just out here saying, okay, well, we're going to talk to a couple of kids. No, there are people in the Buffalo public school system. We're trying to turn that school to prison pipeline. We're trying to get rid of that, silence that. This is what we out here doing. And a lot of the work that we're doing it voluntarily. So don't also people out there thinking that people are being paid to do these things. No, we're doing it because there's a love in our hearts to do what we do.
Yeah. And I also say just briefly that there is, to the caller, there does need to be a holistic approach. So we do need to demand more of our public schools. We do need to demand more from our community opportunities and more importantly, our elected officials. So again, while we're here talking about sentence reform bills, we do need to make sure that our Board of Education here is doing the right thing. We do need to make sure that these brothers who are doing peacemakers, back to basics, they are getting the investments to continue to hire folks, right? So this is what we're talking about, investing more in our communities and less in cases. So there does need to be a holistic approach. We do need to hold our elected officials accountable and more importantly, let your voice be heard. So these same calls, just like how you did, sir, and so many others, we need to be calling our lawmakers and saying we demand more as well.
Hey, listen, I want to thank Felicia. I want to thank you, Thomas, and you, Lamar, for being here. This has been a good discussion, particularly on the behalf of those who are incarcerated, because a lot of times it comes in a little bit under radar. I'm also going to be pushing to the coalition to find a way to get you some regular time, even if it's once a month, to engage with the people. I mean, you can reach more people on there than you can trying to knock on doors.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just saying, and you can have this intersectional moment.
Yes, sir.
So I'm glad y'all kicked the conversation up another level here with us today. And Maurice, I'm doing your new name word. Look at that.
We was just heating up. Man.
Yeah, I know it. And that's what I'm saying. See, that's why you need to be back regular and everybody else will get heated up with you. I'm also going to shut up by saying, hey, look, tune in with us next week. We're going to have a mayoral candidate in here. And you don't want to miss it. And don't be afraid to call. No talking in the corner. Call while we're on there. And with that said, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the videographer who always reminded me, look the other way too, and time as well. Austin Murray, all three of you, Felicia.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Appreciate everybody that's
we out of here. Peace and love.
Thank you.
Put your number on here.